And hello. Welcome back to the Absolute Football Podcast. It is the absolutely Premier League show with more Premier League action than we can come up with, because we're not going to do it all. We'll do as much as we can in probably about the hour and a half we're going to be with you. There's plenty to cover with the Premier League. It is, of course, a new week, but I'm not doing this on my own. Never do this on my own. What a stupid idea that would be. And I found two fantastic, including a new face who we'll introduce sort of very shortly. But the man in a delicious looking football shirt, if you're listening on audio, do check it out on YouTube, because Grimmy is rocking a beautiful football shirt tonight. So Grimmy, how are you doing?
Very good, very comfortable in my beautiful football shirt of the mighty Blythe Spartans, who picked up their first win in 18 games on Saturday. This is where the relegation battles kicks in now. We've got 13 points to get in about 16 games. So, yeah, we'll see if we can actually... That would be a great escape. But, yeah, to answer your original question, I'm good. Yes. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic indeed. It's very good to hear that Blythe Spartans are on the up. You know, it's unbeaten in one. You know, it all starts somewhere, doesn't it?
Gotta start somewhere.
It all starts somewhere. Of course, it's not just Grimmy. We have a new face with us. Very excited to have with us Toby. Toby, how are you doing?
Hello, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I'm really happy to be making my debut on this podcast.
Yeah, we're buzzing to have you on. I mean, we've spoken to Toby but you may well see him coming up soon on the lower league show, talking sort of non-league. But do tell everybody who you support and who you are.
So I'm a Spurs fan. I suppose, yeah, Toby, Spurs fan. And I follow Salisbury as well in the National League South. So that's what originally I sort of coming on here for. But yeah, Spurs today, as it's the Premier League show.
It is Spurs today, and very topical. We will be getting on to Spurs. Don't worry, because there's plenty to talk around Tottenham. So we'll get your views on that. Don't worry at all. Of course, we're also very blessed to have people in the chat as well. And great, Graham, I'm telling you. So they say that the early bird catches the worm, but the early Graham definitely catches the pod, because he's been here since quarter to 8, giving us his updates on the Charlton Bristol Rovers game, and we can confirm it's currently 2-0. So Graham is well ready indeed. So welcome to Graham. Welcome to Heather. Heather is a Bournemouth fan. She's going to be very excited, and we will be talking about Bournemouth later, Heather. So I'm sure you'll be very pleased to hear about that. Charlotte is with us, which is lovely, but also very unfortunate, because Charlotte's supposed to be watching Rochdale this evening, who unfortunately have suffered another postponement in the National League. So I think Charlotte's going to be watching National League football up until July at this point, with all the games they have to get on. So we're sorry, but it's lovely to have you with us, Char. She didn't get her pie and gravy though, so you know
that's why she's more upset.
I can completely understand. We have the wonderful Jen as well. Very wonderful Jen. Hello to Jen. She says hello to Toby as well. Heather's here dreaming of European football for Bournemouth as well. Show me the way to Barcelona. Very excited there. Graham's now giving us his official hello. And, of course, the wonderful Dan from the Turf Moor Restaurant. Evening, legends. Evening to you, Dan. Hope you're doing well. And Graham says, because Dan is a Burnley fan, have you woken up from that snooze fest yesterday that was Burnley versus Leeds? They may talk about it on Thursday. It had ramifications in the Championship, but it wasn't the greatest game from what I heard. But Shah doesn't care about football at Scotland. Just give me my pie and gravy. Give me pie and gravy. Talking of pie and gravy, I'm not sure if this is a segue, but we'll go with it. Spurs 1, Leicester 2. We're going to kick off straight with the big one. And before we sort of come to Toby and get his thoughts, obviously in a deep dive on the Tottenham side of things, Grimmy, Tottenham have now lost 9 matches out of 10, and Leicester won an awful run and they went and lost. What's going on at Tottenham, Grimmy?
What a loaded question that is. I mean, we've been asking that question for about 4 or 5 weeks, I think, and no one can seem to give a straight answer. And I watched the game against Leicester, and I've got no idea. Like, they can't seem to score goals. They can't seem to defend. They can't really seem to do a whole lot else. Yeah, it's just bizarre. I mean, I know they've got injuries. Like, I'm not discrediting the injuries they've got, but even so, against the Leicester team who were looking under pressure, and Van Nistelrooy was looking under pressure heading into this weekend, and he's got a win and probably taking it all off him straight away. So Spurs at the minute are the team you probably want to play based on the form, but it should be the complete opposite based on some of the results they've had this season, like when they went away to City and how they've played against some of the bigger teams. But yeah, it is bizarre.
It is a bizarre run, as you say, Grimmy. They do have injuries. I know Dominic Solanke's out for 6 weeks and they've got a few issues. I think the Richarlison substitution was booed because basically they don't really have any attacking players. But Mikey Moore, I think, on the bench at the minute. But there's still enough in that team that should be doing the job. It's obviously building pressure on Ange. We will talk about that. We'll talk about that too. But Toby, we'll come on to you. How is it feeling at the moment as a Spurs fan? Is there a lot of negativity, I presume, around the club?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we're just so bored and sick to death of losing football matches. And I think it rubs it in more when it's a poor, with all due respect, Ruud van Nistelrooy Leicester side. Like, we shouldn't be losing at home to them. It's just so frustrating. And it's the manner of the defeats as well. It's just, we've been so spineless, and yeah, it's not pretty at the moment, and I think the fans, there's a lot of unrest, and I think the majority are now leaning towards Ange out. I think it's going to be a very toxic environment if we don't win on Thursday night in the Europa League, and then we don't go and get any points away at Brentford, which is looking like a very tough fixture, as it always is going away to Brentford. But yeah, it's very toxic at the moment.
It certainly is. It certainly is. The fans are not happy, and understandable with that run. It's seen Tottenham kind of plummet down the league and are worryingly looking over their shoulder now a little bit, because teams below them as well picking up kind of a bit of form, and losses to Leicester certainly don't help. What in terms of the game against Leicester went wrong for you?
I don't. It all went wrong, to be fair. I think just the conceding goals back to back, like how quick the second one come after the first one. I think that was just the mentality, just how, we looked vulnerable after Vardy scored that first one. I think the second one, it was coming. It's just the mentality shift, and I think obviously it doesn't help that we've got no players at the minute. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of our injuries are down to Ange in the first place, which I think is the frustrating thing. I think obviously every team gets injuries, but the amount we've got is just, honestly, it's an absolute crisis. But it's just frustrating because I think, the way Van der Ven and Romero got injured in November against Chelsea, that was on the manager rushing them back. They weren't ready to play, and that's ultimately cost us a lot of points throughout December and now. And yeah, I think it's probably going to end up costing him his job.
Yeah, it's a good point on the injuries, because particularly that Chelsea game, bringing both centre-backs back at that point, rushing them in, and Van der Ven's got quite a history of hamstring issues, isn't he? Hamstring and knee issues. I was looking at his record today. I think he's had about 5 or 6 separate instances of those injuries in the past sort of 3 years. So it certainly needs to be managed carefully coming back. And this sort of high push football is not going to help. I was looking at some stats today as well with Postocoglu. So he's now 61 games that they've had, 98 goals conceded. That's an average of 1.6 per game conceded compared to Mourinho and Conte. Mourinho had 1.2 and Conte 1.1. And Mourinho left in 7th place and Conte was 6th at that point. Conte even had a better goals scored ratio, which didn't kind of, at that point, the narrative was boring football, wasn't it? Is it looking like, and Grimmy will know I'm coming up with this pun, so prepare yourself, Grimmy, but is it looking like job in Postocoglu for Ange?
I think it is. I think I'm not sure how he gets so much like leeway, whereas Conte and obviously he didn't get the same, and he was performing a lot better than we are now. I think as Spurs fans, we're sick of changing managers, but where we are genuinely, I don't think we will, for the record, but we are genuinely in a position where we are vulnerable to relegation. I think obviously for a club of our size and the money we've spent in the last few years especially, it's obviously not good enough. It's atrocious, really. So yeah, I think he is a bit of a fraud, to be fair. And I think obviously it takes a lot for me to turn against a manager, because I just want to back him. I want to back a manager when they come to the club. I don't want to get switch managers every 10 minutes. But it's got to the point where I think it's hard to back him, and I have lost a lot of faith. And it was only the Leicester game where I was like, yeah, he has to go now. I was on the edge, but that was too much for me.
Yeah, the Leicester one's a really, really, really bad one with the form that they're in at home. That's kind of inexcusable, isn't it? With as you said, injuries, there are other narratives to it, but that's just a really, really bad result. I mean, is it? Where's the sort of split at the minute you seeing with yourself? Because I know there's a lot on the fan base that are very Levy out. I think Graham's asked a question there. Levy out, Ange out. I mean, obviously Levy's been there a long time now, and it's kind of a cycle that happens. Are people more 50-50 split, or are they pushing for Ange out more?
I think it's a weird one because I think most people I speak to are very heavy Levy out. I think obviously it is on Levy to a certain extent. Like, well, we know the injury crisis we're in. We've signed 0 outfield players this window. What have we got now? A few days left of the window. What's it? Monday it officially shuts.
Yeah.
Either way, we don't have anything unless it's going on behind the scenes that looks like it's going to materialize the next few days, and it's just not really acceptable. So I think the split is, I think everyone, well, not everyone, but I think the majority of people are very anti-Levy. I think a lot of people are Ange and Levy out at the same time, if that works. But yeah, I'd say that's probably 80% of the fan base that I sort of see from, hear from, speak to are Levy out.
I think that, and I think there's lots of questions, isn't there, over recruitment and a lot of issues that have kind of been happening with the club. Graham's come up to say this is a brilliant stat here. Saw a stat yesterday that Spurs had more points last year after 10 games than they have this season so far, which is incredible. Obviously, that incredible start that Ange had last season definitely contributed to that. But is there I think this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, even the sort of media are saying it, but relegation, Toby, is there any worry or threat or whatsoever? I mean, in theory, that squad shouldn't be anywhere near it, but the reality is it's 8 points now, isn't it, to the zone?
I think there is a genuine worry, but I think the only reason we're going to be all right is because I think there are 3 teams worse than us, and Leicester being one of them, even though they beat us. I think Saints, Southampton, I think they're poor. I think they're going to go down, and I think that will probably keep us in the division, the fact that this team's worse than us. But if you look at our next 8 fixtures, they don't look very friendly at all. And I think genuinely it's going to be a lot closer than people think. But I think we will be all right ultimately. It is a genuine worry though.
Yeah, it's definitely got them well out of, I mean, saying those last 2 managers, we said, Mourinho and Conte, both when they left, you were still in European competitions. Those places would have got you into the Europa and Conference Leagues those season. And so it's been a lot of frustrating results for Tottenham for sure. Grimmy, will come over to you in terms of with generally on the Spurs situation. I know we've asked this a lot. When, if the axe is going to fall on Ange, do you think the Liverpool Cup game is the one thing that's still they're waiting to see what happens there? Because that does change the narrative a bit with Tottenham and a trophy, doesn't it, if they make a cup final?
Yeah, I mean, I think Liverpool's part of it, but I also think that you've got the Europa League as well. FA Cup's a bit more difficult because you've got Villa away. So if you can somehow get past Villa, then you're making a good cup run there as well. So maybe the Liverpool game is what they're holding on to, but they've got rid of managers 5 days before a cup final before, so I don't necessarily think that's maybe part of the thinking. The only thing I can make an argument for is the amount of injuries he's had, because even if you look at this weekend, Richarlison going off early because he wasn't fit enough to play the full 90 minutes and he didn't have any other options on the bench. So it's kind of like, if he hasn't got players to play with, essentially, and it's that situation, like, he's kind of fighting with one hand tied behind his back. And I know we've got other teams who are doing well who have injuries, but again, with Spurs, it seems like a lot of their injuries have been to key players. I mean, Romero and Van de Ven, if they're not playing in central defence, it's a pretty open Spurs unit, and they're open at the best of times, even when it's a full strength squad. So, yeah, I think the only thing that's maybe helping him is the fact that there is maybe circumstances that Levy and Co can maybe argue with and say it's been a rough season in that regard. So that's why maybe we're having a bit of a poorer standard. But again, they've got the next 3 league games are Brentford, United, and Ipswich. And I feel like if they go lose those 3, or two in the first two even, I think he's probably gone, regardless of what happens with Liverpool.
I think you're right. Looking at those three, and obviously as we know where Manchester United are, that's a game that they'll see as a winnable. And we saw how bonkers the cup game was only a few weeks ago. So they'll look at that. Ipswich, Brentford away. I mean, Brentford have been a tough place to go all season, but somewhere Spurs have got to pick up points. Heather said could see them ending 14th, 15th though. I mean, I think the problem is that there's teams that are. You said there's three. I agree with you, Tom. There's definitely three worst teams in terms of the league, and I think relegation's not. But then you look at the teams above, and you're starting to see teams like Palace putting little runs together. West Ham have got a new manager. That's a little bounce coming. United are a little bit ahead. Can they do a little bit more? And you're starting to think, well, where are these teams at Tottenham going to pull in if you can't see any consistency? Do you think it's just a case, Toby, if you get some of the players back, that would be enough to give you that kick in?
Yeah, I think once we get the centre-backs back, I think that will make a massive difference because Dragason's he's not good enough. And we've been playing, and credit to him because he's done excellent, Archie Gray, who is not a centre-back. This is his first season of Premier League football. And we've been playing Porro, fullback, who excellent going forward, but defensively, there's a lot of work to do there. But I think, once we get the centre-backs back, I think we should start picking up points in games that you would expect us to win a bit more. I don't think we'll be outstanding, but I don't think we'll be as poor as we are now.
No, I don't.
Yeah. No, sorry.
So that's right. A couple might sort of help in terms of given the positivity. I'd agree with Heather. It's not really an excuse when Bournemouth have no striker right back. But I think the point trying to make here really is that you're in a downturn of form, aren't you? You're struggling, and sometimes you just need a spark of something. Bournemouth situation is complete. They're doing fantastic without the players that they've got, but they're riding a very good season. And Tottenham is a toxic, negative arena at the moment, and need to find something to give them that kind of positive to move forward. But someone who's always positive is our Rebecca, who's joined us quickly. She is halftime. She's watching at Accrington today, 0-0 at Accrington. So we're praying for goals for Rebecca, hopefully for Accrington, as Graham says, up the Stanley. So I think we've done as much as we can on Tottenham. We wait to see what happens with Ange, the Europa League stuff that goes through. But flipping it on its head, Grimmy, how bad did Ruud van Nistelrooy need that win and Leicester? They're out of the relegation zone just with that one win.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be understated, really. 5 games lost on the trot before that game. And I think even a point or something would have done them the world of good. So for them to turn it around and get the win, it gives them all something to take into the next run of games that they've got. And hopefully, I mean, I'm biased because obviously huge Ruud van Nistelrooy fan as being a United fan, so I want him to do well. But obviously, we'll wait and see. I think even against the out of form Spurs, a win is a win when you're in a relegation battle. So you take whatever you can get. And the next the next 3-4 games for Leicester don't look great in terms of the league. When you've got Everton away, Arsenal, Brentford, West Ham and Chelsea, it's that's not a nice run of fixtures to go into. So getting a win there could do them the world of good, I think.
Certainly will. Just that win, that bit of positivity. I think there was an interview with Jamie Vardy after the game where he was almost sort of suggesting, because there'd been a bit of rumours of a bit of fracture between Van Nistelrooy and a couple of players, and he was almost sort of trying to galvanise them as a senior man in the squad. Who he scored 8 goals, by the way, in the Premier League so far this season. Jamie Vardy, that's kind of snuck in a little bit unnoticed. Someone who's snuck in, but certainly not unnoticed. Driti's in. She apologises for being late. I know Josh would behest you in jest, but Driti's too nice. I can't do that to Driti. You're always welcome. Whatever time you come and join us. But Leicester, Toby, what did you see from them at the weekend watching the game? Was there anything did you think it was more Leicester did it to Tottenham or Tottenham imploded themselves?
Oh, I thought Leicester were right. I didn't think they were anything special, to be honest. I thought, I'm not convinced by Leicester. I mean, it's a brilliant win for them, but ultimately, I don't see them having enough to survive. I think they were all right. I think they defended well. I don't think they were excellent. I think we were very poor defensively, and I think that's probably they won. But fair play to them. It was a great finish for the second goal. So
goals will help. Goals and wins. That's it. It will give them positivity. And there's a huge game coming up next weekend at Goodison Park. Everton versus Leicester is going to be a real battle. Obviously, David Moyes now, and we'll come to Everton briefly at the end, that they're doing a lot better now. Grimmy, Leicester, yes or no, staying up?
With Wolves being down there and them improving, I think the answer is no. I think Leicester do go down because I think Wolves will be the ones to get out of that bottom four battle.
That's fair. Toby, what about that for you? Is Leicester staying up?
I think Leicester are going down. I think Wolves are stronger. I think just Cunha himself is, as a player, I think he's a good enough player to keep a team up. And I also think Ipswich are a lot better than Leicester. So, yeah, they're going down for me.
There we go. They also haven't. There's nothing that's happened yet for. There's still days to go. There's still panics to happen. We will see a couple of late panics going on. Leicester haven't done anything yet in the window so much. I think a lot of it has been behind the scenes. I think their owner's been converting a lot of their debt. So it's possibly why there's a lot of transfer holding going on at Leicester. But there we go. So Leicester with a 2-1 shock, they got the victory. And again, it was a shock, but not so much because of how good Bournemouth have been, but to go and turn Nottingham Forest over 5-0, Grimmy, 5-0 against one of the best defences in the Premier League this season, with a behest of injuries, as Heather mentioned earlier. They only have 12 fit players, I think I saw. They've got Evan Nilsson out, there's Unal out, and they've scored 2 hat-tricks in 2 games against Newcastle and Forest, who are about as in form as you can kind of get in the league. So, as impressive goes, how impressive is that victory?
Very impressive. I mean, like, you would take a win against Newcastle and Forest because they're directly above you and are fighting for the same European spots you are, but to batter them like you did, it's ridiculous, really. I watched the highlights of the game, and the first half, again, didn't really seem like it was going to be a battering, and then second half, it just seemed Forest defense just capitulated and Bournemouth took advantage and took the chances. And yeah, you have to say they're very much in the fight now for a top 4 spot, which is crazy to say considering where they were even just like a couple of seasons ago. So yeah, I mean, it's all credit to Bournemouth and the team that they have for picking up these results, really. And again, everybody seems to be chipping in with goals and performances. And I know Kluivert gets a lot of the plaudits, but it seems like everyone's doing their bit, really.
Well, it does, and they've all kind of changed their positions a little bit, and they've had to adapt because obviously with Evan Nilsson out, they're sort of down the front, and I think like Dango Quattara obviously scoring the hat trick this weekend. I think he came in up front kind of as a bit of an experiment, I guess, against West Brom in the FA Cup, and then since then he's kind of felt into that position. It just seems that they have the versatility within that attacking unit. Between Semenyo, Kluivert, Ouattara, Evan Nilsson when he's there, it can all play in slightly different positions and fit in, and they're just absolutely all electric. And talking of electric, our very own Paul is here. He's checking on the EPL. It's Cherry's chat, Paul. They are fantastic. And Paul says, speaking of Bournemouth, Justin Kluivert is going to have someone offer a lot of money for him soon. I think there's a lot of players. I mean, I remember him when he came in. I think Lucas in particular was quite sceptical of what he'd sort of seen him from in European football, but he certainly done a brilliant job. Toby, for you, what were your takes on sort of Bournemouth? I mean, obviously you must be impressed as everybody else is, but what do you think of that 5-0 victory over Forest?
Yeah, I think beating Forest in itself, I would have been not surprised because Bournemouth have been excellent, but I think that would be a big enough achievement in itself. Putting 5 past them, I think, is outstanding. I think it's Lewis Cook playing at right back excellently. He's filling an absolute role there. He's doing a really good job. Iraola was saying in his press conference that he wants to sign a striker. I'm not so sure if he needs a striker with Atara's performance on the weekend. He looks fit to lead the line for Bournemouth and score goals in the absence of what's his name, Evan Nilsson.
Yeah.
So I think they're so aggressive with the way they press, and I love watching them, and I'm really envious of them, actually.
They have become, they are very much the neutrals' favourite this season in terms of watching and exciting to watch, and a possibility of European football. Heather, you need to make sure your passport is ready because there is the possibility of some fantastic venues on the horizon if this continues. Grimmy, where could they finish? Is Champions League a realistic possibility? We're obviously 23 games in, it's starting to get closer, but we still have 15 games to go. Are we right to talk about Bournemouth in the Champions League conversation at the minute?
Yes, because like you say, it's 23 games in. I think once you've got sort of towards that halfway mark, if you're in or around whatever place you're in the league, you are in those discussions, whether it's relegation, Champions League, fighting for the title, whatever. Of course, I think they're going to need some luck to go their way for it and injuries not to keep being a thing, I think, if they're going to be fighting for it. But Chelsea are on a bit of a down slope. Newcastle have been fantastic as well as anybody in the league recently. And City seem to be finding the feet again a little bit. So it is going to be tricky to be Champions League, but I would be surprised if Bournemouth aren't in the European places by the end of the season. If they don't at least have Conference League, I would be surprised the way they've been playing.
I think they were a very difficult nut to crack as well. Like, I think it's a lot of teams are struggling with, and there's no kind of area that's been very clever how he's setting them up. There's not a template that people are going to sort of easily spot, I think, at this point. So I can't see a dip. I think 3 or 4 games ago, when you looked at the fixtures, they had some really bad fixtures coming up, and they've excelled in all of those. So it's almost like they're kind of over that hump, and I think they're on a great run. I mean, Heather says, imagine Bayern Munich coming to D. It's a possibility, and it's a possibility. Who'd have said that? Bayern Munich Aston Villa was a thing, this season, and then they went and beat them as well, didn't they? When that kind of happened. So, Toby, for you, Bournemouth Champions League, is it a real possibility? Can they jump the sides ahead of them?
I think absolutely it's a possibility. I'd probably say, if I was going to put money on it, I'd probably go Europa League. But I would not put it past them to get Champions League. I think they are the form team in the Premier League. They went to St James's Park, and Newcastle were about to win 10 in a row. They went and stopped them quite comfortably. I think when they get some players back as well, I think that squad, I think that manager, I think definitely realistic top 4. I mean, you've got Arsenal, Liverpool, and Forest. Whether or not they stay up and around there, I definitely think there's a chance for Bournemouth. But I'd probably say Europa League is where I'd sort of have them.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I think, as you said, Liverpool are well gone. Arsenal, you'd imagine, would be there. City are coming back. We're starting to see the City, and they're very capable, as we know, to put a run together that will suddenly see them well into the top 4 and sort of beyond. Chelsea are in that kind of weird dip. Forest is very interesting. It will be for Forest now, because this is kind of their first real setback, should we say, of the season. Everything else has kind of gone pretty well, so it will be interesting to see how they can react quite quickly. But the interesting thing, I think, is Heather says there, though, is that on the coefficient, there's a possibility, I think, of 5 Champions League places, isn't there? I think it's a pretty heavy possibility that it's going to be the case. So suddenly that does really change chances. Flipping it on the other side, Grimmy, to Nottingham Forest. Just a bad day at the office, just ran into the wrong team at the wrong time, or do you think this there'll be more things that are a little bit worrying for them? Yeah,
it's hard to say it's going to be more issues for them when it's been going so well so far this season. Of course, I think the answer to it will be shown, because next they've got Brighton, and again, Brighton are a team that aren't really doing as well as they were at the start. They've had a lot of draws recently, and then obviously lost the weekend as well. So, and it's at home. So if Forest obviously can pick up some points, I think that'll be good for them. They do have a bit of a tougher run coming up with Newcastle, Arsenal, and City back to back. So again, these next couple of games, if they can get 3 points in those next couple of games, it'll be back to normal for them, I would say.
It's a possibility, and it's very interesting, the game against Brighton, to see whether they get that bounce back. And they have been linked to a few players in the window as well. I think a bid's gone in for Johan Visser. They seem to be looking for another attacking option. potential with a Wonyi sort of going out there. Toby, obviously, fantastic season so far for Nottingham Forest. To be up there is just kind of incredible. I suppose now is maybe difficult because their fans' expectations might have shifted slightly, and to have a sort of result like this could be a hit. Do you think it's just a dip, or do you think Forest will return pretty quickly?
I think it's just a dip. I mean, I think it didn't help that it was 5-0. I think if they lose that 2 or 3-0, we're probably not speaking about it like this. But no, I think it is just a dip. I think it is probably more to do with how excellent Iraola's Bournemouth side are at the minute than Forest. But I think they'll be fine. I think they'll probably have a slight drop off, not necessarily for the back of this game, but just in terms of teams like City getting better. I think they'll probably drop a few places, but they're definitely a team that can achieve European football, whether it be Conference League, Europa League this season. But yeah, I think it's just more of a dip.
The other thing to take into account as well for Forest is their next couple of games are winnable, while City have got Arsenal next, Newcastle and Liverpool. And I was going to say Spurs, but obviously Spurs' current form isn't showing that to be a tough fixture at the minute. Usually it would be. But again, if City drop points in those next couple of games and Bournemouth and Forest can pick up points, it just helps that momentum going into the last part of the season. So anything's possible.
It certainly is possible, and you've got sides up there that European football is starting to will become a lot more competitive once we've gotten through this league stage. We're about to go into knockout stages, and a number of teams will be involved in that. The cups start to pick up a lot as well. There's a lot of games for these teams, and so Europe is not something at the moment. Forest and Bournemouth, it's a problem that they want to have next season, but at the moment not something that they have to contend with, so they can properly prepare for those games. You would imagine too. So yeah, I mean you don't want to be too reactive because you win a game, you lose a game. You're not the best team in the world. You're not the worst team in the world, but and you can have a really bad off day and come up against the juggernaut, which I think is a bit what's happened. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in games to come. What else to cover this weekend? Well, there was a big talking point in the Arsenal game. Should we go to the Arsenal game because I think that's been there's been a red card rescinded, and Arsenal have been calling for every red card ever to be rescinded because they're always on the end of these wrong decisions. But I think this weekend might be a bit different. Toby, obviously, our Spurs fan, well happy when Arsenal are not happy, but that red card against Miles Lewis-Skelly has been overturned today. Right decision for you?
Yeah, rightfully so. It wasn't a red card, was it? I think, was it Mike Oliver refereeing?
Yes, yeah.
He looked very keen to get it out. I'm not, it's never a red card. I don't think any fan wants to see that really, even it being Arsenal. I mean, I was happy they got a red card when I got the notification on my phone, but no, it's not good for the game really, that being a red card, and yeah, rightfully so, it's overturned.
Yeah, it's not helpful. For me, it was he tried to stop a counter attack quickly, and another one that they were sort of showing on slowed down speed, or it's above the, and you're going, it's just not. He's 90 yards from goal as well. There's a whole host of things. I'm not even sure that he wasn't sort of ahead of the defender at that point. There wasn't even a guarantee that was the case. Grimmy, you in agreement? Was that a shocker and deserved overturning?
Absolutely not. He could have been killed.
He could have been killed. Thank God he was wearing heavy socks on those ankles. My word.
Yeah, just no. I mean, it was funny. I was watching Soccer Saturday as it happened, and Tim Sherwood was just losing his mind as to how that was a red. And then Mike Dean was like, "Well, from the angle I'm looking at, it looks like it's above his ankle." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I saw when eventually the highlight came up, I was like, I don't know what Mike Dean's been paid by the Referees Association to agree with every referee, but that is, quite frankly, terrible punditry. So yeah, if that's a send it off, then the game has officially gone.
It has gone. I mean, I just that ref watch that they're doing currently, and they have that. It just seems to be the most pointless thing in the world because they just back whatever's going on, and it's just like no, that's what he's gone for. And we know he's given the decision, but it's a bit look after your mates. And Graham says, how did VAR not overturn it for Arsenal since won the appeal? VAR is just backing up your mate. It's pretty mad.
But it says something when the Gomez one later on in the game was only a booking. I would have said that was way more of a red card than what the other guy, I can't remember what the guy's name was, but the other guy got for Arsenal because it was over the top. It was on his foot and on his ankle. And I was just like, well, that's a straight red right there if there ever was one. So, yeah, just bizarre.
That was a bizarre one. And we will bring this point out because Stevie says should have upheld the red card after the abuse the ref got afterwards, sickening. Yeah, the abuse that Michael Oliver got was again horrendous. We're starting to see this weekly that I don't know about you, it seems to be getting worse. There seems to be someone every week that's getting an abuse off the back of it. I mean, a wrong decision is not the reason to be going after people, and it's just absolutely hideous some of the stuff that's happening on social media. But in terms of the decision, yeah, I think, and they've overturned it, and they've overturned it pretty quickly. So that tells you that they're pretty consistent that that's wrong. But again, VAR once again continues to surprise and frustrate everybody. No consistency, as Heather says, no consistency at all. But in the game itself, Grimmy, Arsenal did get the goal because it did seem to be petering into one of those games where when they've been playing with 10 men, they haven't been able to get over the line, and it did seem it was going to be that case. Is that starting to show some of the Arsenal grit that they're going to need?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, if there was ever a game for them to show to the owners to dig up some money to buy a striker, I think that was it. Because Havertz had 3 gilt-edged chances to put them in front, and you know, and again, I don't have anything against Havertz as a player, but he's obviously not a striker. Like he scored a few goals for them last season. Don't get me wrong, but if they had that striker from the season's beginning, they would probably be 2 or 3 steps closer to Liverpool. And I just think it's unfortunate for Havertz because he's the one that's going to get it in the neck from the Arsenal fans or whoever's watching the game, because he's the one who's being put in front of these chances, and there is literally no one else for Arsenal to put up there. So yeah, Arsenal need another striker, even if it's like just a backup to have in place for if Havertz isn't playing or needs to come off early, because he'll be dead on his feet by the end of the season if he's not got someone to take his place sooner rather than later.
Yeah, this is it. Now you've got Jesus out for the season as well. You know, that may force them a little bit. I can't believe that they weren't already looking for a striker. It's been blatantly obvious for season and a half. That's what they need. And certainly since the first half of this season, it's been. I mean, Havertz has scored more goals this season than he has in the past, but he's just not clinical enough. And how many of those headers? He had a bit of a 50 pence header going on at the weekend because it was coming off at all angles into crossbars but nothing goal bound. I've seen links. I don't know how serious they are. Benjamin Sesko's been a name that's been mentioned, but then I've also seen Chelsea interested as well because it's a transfer, so that they have to get involved, have to be involved in that. Toby, from the Spurs fans' perspective, obviously you're hoping they don't get a striker, but do you agree? Do you think the striker is the missing piece?
Yeah, I think they need a number 9 who's going to score them 20 goals a season. Really, I think that's what every team in their position who is looking to win a league needs, a striker that's going to consistently score them goals. And obviously Havertz is not that. I think I've seen them linked to John Duran today. I don't know how much concrete is in that, but I think Villa have got him valued at 85 million or something like that. I wouldn't pay that for him, but yeah, I think they need a striker. Who they're going to get, not sure. I mean, Sesko, I haven't seen much of him, so I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I think it's a hard window to go out and get a number 9, especially with a few clubs looking for 9s. It's not easy, and whether you sell your number 9 at this point in the window, it leaves you sort of short unless you've got plans to get one in and someone lined up, which I don't think many teams will have. So I think they'll struggle to get a number 9 in this window, but they should have got one in the summer, and I think that it's probably going to cost them this year.
Yeah, I was having to think before, like, who could they realistically go get? And the only name that really came into my head was maybe like a loan, like a Vlahovic from Juve, because Juve have been trying to sell him on or get him somewhere for the rest of the season. And I mean, United were linked with him at one point. Again, it would be nice just to have another striker that isn't named Højlund. But again, Vlahovic, I think, is someone. When he's on, he's a clinical finisher, and he's not going to cost Arsenal a load of money because he'd be a loan. Someone like him would make the world of sense because he's an option, and you're not going to get, like you say, their number 1 option that they would want for the next 5-6 years in January, unless they're going to pay like 150 million for the guy. Like, you go get Isak, but even then, Newcastle aren't going to sell to him. So.
No, this is exactly it. As Stevie said, I wish the media would stop the Isak to Arsenal narrative. He's staying at the 2. Yeah, exactly. Newcastle are not selling Isak unless the money's absolutely ridiculous, and certainly not in January. I can't see that, if Newcastle want to progress to where they get to, you don't sell the best striker, one of the best strikers currently in European football. It's just madness. And I think everyone with Isak in their fantasy Premier League team would be happy just for him to carry on at Newcastle as he has been over the previous week. That would do lovely. Be quite happy with that. But Arsenal obviously missing Saka too. But that striker is just someone, like you said, like a Vlahovic, a penalty box merchant. I think would be perfect for what they're doing, and they'd see the bulk of difference. But I think it's going to be a little bit too late unless something crazy happens in this next week that we can't foresee. We're going to move on now to originally Hannah was supposed to be joining us tonight. Unfortunately, it's not been well, so I hope you're getting better, Hannah. We're going to have a proper Man United deep dive. We're going to have a little bit, and we've got Toby here to kind of keep us centered so that Grimmy and I don't get too emotional and over the top.
Before I start throwing my camera out the window, you mean? Yeah,
it all goes crazy now. We've managed to accrue a win, We've managed to accrue a win, and it has done. Last few times we've been on, the result's been okay, but can we forgive the fact that we've got 3 points at Fulham, not an easy place to get 3 points from, with the fact that we just watched some absolute utter dross in terms of performance?
I was talking to one of my friends yesterday about it, and they were saying, well, it was a tough watch. I was like, it's a tough watch, but when there's 3 points at the end of it, with the way things are for United at the moment, I don't really care. Again, not to dig Spurs out here, Toby, but if Spurs had won yesterday, would you guys have cared whether it was a good game or a bad game or a good performance or a bad performance?
No, definitely not. No.
So it's like if we went for the rest of the season just getting 1-0s, I'd take that.
Yeah, take that for now, for sure.
Exactly. So again, and it shows you how far we've sunk down this pit of being Man United at the minute. But a 1-0 away to Fulham we will take, because again, there's plenty of teams where we will go away this season or have been away this season, and we wouldn't have got anywhere near that. So I'll take whatever we can get.
It was a one of those get a 1-0 smash and grab and get. And to be honest, the last few at Fulham, past few seasons have been like that. We'd scored late, I think, in the past 2 matches at Craven Cottage to get a win. Yeah. So even in the past seasons where we'd been a bit better than where we're at the moment, you can see that the system is having some benefits and some drawbacks, and we're working that out week by week. That's clear. My view is I just want to see a bit of consistency and something that feels we're going somewhere in the second half of the season. My expectations are now on the floor. There is no expectations. A nice run in a cup or maybe some Europa League chasing would be quite nice, and just don't embarrass yourselves is kind of like the message I'm giving to the lads on kind of a weekly basis. But Grimmy, looking at it, we'll start with what's going on the pitch. Are you starting to see some clicks, some improvements, some idea that some players are starting to get what Amorim wants?
I mean, in some games, yes. There is certain bits that I'm starting to see, maybe with the link-up play. We have these patches of 5-10 minutes where it's right, okay, this is probably what Amorim's looking for, and then all of a sudden we have a game like we do against Brighton and we just don't show up. Or Southampton, even though we won, we didn't play for the first 80 minutes, and then Diallo lit us up and we woke up for the last 10 minutes. It's just there's an appalling lack of consistency. And I don't see us ending that. We have an opportunity because the next set of fixtures that we've got in the league, we've got Palace, Spurs, Everton, and Ipswich before the end of February. If we could even win just 2 or 3 of those games and get 3 wins out of the 4, which I think would probably be the first time in this season we've done that, then I would take it quite easily. But I just don't see it from these players. Going forward is my main concern, that we just don't have goals in the team, because Højlund had a decent start and he does tend to score in Europe, but I don't think he scored in the Premier League since maybe early December, I think is the stat. It might be earlier than that. I'm not 100% sure. And apart from Diallo having the odd super game where he saves our bacon, I don't really see anyone else chipping in with steady amount of goals. So, and that's what we need. I mean, I know we're going for this left back, and we do need a left back, to be fair. So I'm not criticizing that signing, but we just don't have anything going forward for me, and that's where we're going to struggle for the rest of the year, is getting enough goals to win games.
It is a bit toothless going forward. It is very much a little bit hope for, and it's been this way at times for the past few seasons. I've felt is that we're not beating teams with rhythm of play, with style of play. You're still waiting on individual specialities, and at the minute we don't have as many of those individual specialities. I think getting us out of it, as you said, Hoyland's really struggling. He was against Fulham. His first touch was horrendous. Was just holding up of the ball, and I guess that's some of the problem, is that they're not holding the ball up very well. Hoyland gives it away and we're being counter-attacked, rather than Hoyland's getting it and we're building an attack, and then he can get forward and maybe create something for him. So the creation isn't there, but it does, a lot of it starts with him because he's not holding the ball up to allow us to get up the pitch and then build and maintain attacks and things like that. So that is a huge problem. I like the fact that he targeted left wing back, because I do think that is showing in the system that we don't have that get out down the left-hand side that we're needing. Dallow's been sort of filling in there and doing okay, but he's on the wrong side and playing a new position. I think that might open up a bit more space. So I think the guys, was it Dorgu, isn't it his name? Dorgu, apparently, according to Fabrizio, is coming. He's coming, and he's coming from everybody's favourite Italian side. The electrical wonders, the utility company, as Shah calls them, Lecce have lent us a spark. So the Shah's scouting has done fantastic. We've got something coming in there. But I just think having that on the left, we might see a little bit more balance on that side. It might free up whether you're playing a Garnacho there or Bruno coming off the left a little bit. That might be nice, but you can't as well. This guy's coming in mid-season, never played the Premier League, 22 years old. The problem is United buy a player and we all expect the world straight away because we need it. Where let's remember, Grimmy and I remember when Evra and Nemanja Vidic were purchased in January.
How long for those days again? Good Lord.
And in the end, we ended up with a fantastic set of defenders, but for the first couple of months, it was rough. It was rough.
Oh, yeah, it was
off after 45 minutes.
We thought they were going in the summer, especially Evra. Evra was the one I was like, he's not going to work. Like, it's just not going to happen for him. But he turned into one of the best left backs we've ever seen. So
exactly. So the patience on the long term is there, but are we going to see that initial? It's a real tough ask. Heather says bring back Weghorst. I mean, I did love a bit of Wout Weghorst, but I mean, his hold up play wasn't bad, to be fair. But
this is the problem we have though with the two strikers that we have, and I find it difficult to call Xerxes a striker. Is that Højlund can press, but when he gets the ball, can't really do anything with it. Whilst Xerxes can get the ball, play these lovely passes and set things up and bring people into play, but he can't press. So we don't have the best of both in either of the strikers, and Amorim's system doesn't work with both of them on the pitch. Because there's been times when Xerxes come on at the end of games and he's linked up play and held the ball up and done what we've needed. I'm like, you should have started. But then when we started him, he's not then able to do the other stuff that we need him to do early on.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So it's like unfortunately, I think it's a case of top to bottom of the squad, we need refreshment really, but striker wise, we don't really have anyone. And I wouldn't be surprised if Amorim gets to a point where he's like, I might try some of the kids out here who are in like the under 21s, because we've got a couple of names there who are doing well and are scoring goals and will have a bit of confidence. And sometimes you just need that bit of youth in there to spark things a bit. And I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't be against them playing them on Thursday when we play in the Europa League and just giving them a run out and see how they are in the system.
It makes sense because I mean they're almost there in terms of the qualification. And I do think if he gets a kind of March or whatever, we might see that because he'll have given up on some of these guys by then. If the season's looking like it is now, and you're like, well, we're not getting into Europe, we are where we're at. I need to prioritise. I think he'll start to say, well, I'll start to decide on who's staying and who's not long term, and we'll start to see more of them sort of cut out the squad. Toby, from your perspective, looking at it outside in, what are you making of the United attack? I'm sure you're exhilarated by watching Man United on the highlights. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by Højlund. I think I live with a big United fan like yourselves, and he's always told me when he signed him last year and he scored in the Champions League, he was very like, oh, watch this space. He's going to be a top player. I don't really see it. I think that is a very poor signing when you look at the price that you paid for him. But I think you probably give Almiron. He's going to have his summer window. I think September, October time. I think if Almiron can get the players he wants in, and you get a striker who can score goals, you get some attackers that can actually contribute a bit more than the likes of Xerxes. I'm not a big fan of Garnacho, to be fair, either. I think he sort of he looks all right sometimes. I'm just not convinced by him. I think yeah, definitely scoring goals is United's issue at the minute. I think the quality of your front line isn't up to scratch, really.
No, it's not been good. As Stevie says, it's a story of bad recruitment at Man United. It's the worst Man United side that he's ever seen. And to be fair, yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue. The league position says what it says. The performances are pretty much as bad as it is. Recruitment has been a big problem for a while. There's not been, I think this summer there was a couple we were happier with. I mean, I must admit the Xerxes one didn't light a fire for me, but I thought for a free, De Ligt, okay, yeah, happy with that at the time. I think Ugarte is the kind of player we needed, so I wasn't kind of mad at that one. But still, because there's so much that they're far away, you feel like there's so much they need to do, and they seem to be prioritising. And there does seem to be some transfers going on for younger players. I've seen like Diego Leon, this young left back's come into. So there's a Chinedu Ozzy, isn't it? The Arsenal kid who's whipping it up in the under-21s. So there are some potentials. As Heather says, it's worth a try. Senesi hadn't got injured. We never played Hoyt, and he's only 19 and was for the future, but incredible. Yeah, sometimes you have to give them a chance. And I mean, let's be honest, that's how initially Rashford stepped in and took his chance and suddenly became a name very, very quickly all those years ago. And it's been the United way to throw a kid in. But we will come on to Mr. Marcus of Rashford. As Graham says here, Grimmy, what is going on with Rashford? Proper scathing comments from Amorim about attitude and application. And we will talk about Amorim's press conferences in a minute because he's a blatantly honest man, that's for sure, and as we've seen. But the one from the weekend was again asked about Marcus Rashford, again not involved, again still at the club. Grimmy, what's your take on the whole Marcus Rashford situation and non-situation?
It's his own doing. If he was putting in the effort in and he was training as he was supposed to do and he wasn't pretending to be ill and when he's really hungover and going on nights out and doing all this stuff and not, if he was acting like a professional footballer and doing the training and applying himself properly, Marcus Rashford would be in that team 10 weeks out of 10. There's just no way he wouldn't be in that squad right now if he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. And I don't think Amorim, even if he'd seen a little bit of improvement out of him in training, I think Amorim would have had him in the squad because it's been that bad. And we've had it before where managers have come out and said, like Mourinho after he'd left us, and he was in that, I think it was the one time he did Sky Sports punditry, and he was saying that Rashford is a great player. He just doesn't have that mentality and he doesn't apply it properly in training. And it's like, if he's saying it, and then we're 2-3 managers down the line, and the next one's saying it, then clearly there's an issue. And I've always been a big fan of Rashford. I've always wanted him to do well, and it's got to a point now where it's kind of like, why are we sticking with him? Like, and I know we're trying to get rid of him, but the contract is such that no one's going to pay him the amount of money we want him to pay, and no one's going to pay the transfer fee that we want from him. So we are literally stuck with him at the minute, and I'm glad that Amorim hasn't caved and played him, because that then just means he's won again. And it's a shame because he's been a great servant to the club. He's scored plenty of goals for us. It's not like it's been a bad time of him being at the club. It's not like he's been like a Pogba who's come back and how many good games did he have? Probably could count them on your hand, really. Like Rashford has had good seasons for us, maybe not consistently, but he's had good seasons for us and he's scored plenty of goals. It's just that for whatever reason, it's just this past year he's been atrocious and his attitude has clearly followed it. So yeah, that's all I can really say on Rashford without turning even redder and throwing something out the window.
and getting frustrated. It is so frustrating because the United fans, I think, are giving him that extra because he's a local lad who's come through the youth side. He was always going to get that kind of extra bit of time, I think, for United fans. Whether there's been criticism, and I think a lot of it's been fair, to be honest. Over the times, he's a bit one-trick pony. I think with some of the stuff when he attacks, I think there are certain things that can limit him. But it's certainly been the attitude and the mentality has been mentioned by multiple managers, multiple people. I think former teammates have mentioned it as well. But you now got a situation where you have a player who's effectively a senior player now within the team. He's not the young kid that broke through. He's 27. So you have the likes of Garnacho, Amad Diallo, the guys in the under-21s, looking up to Rashford and seeing this application that Amorim's deemed is not acceptable. And not just Amorim, he had those issues you mentioned last year, Grimmy, like Ten Hag had him out the team. He came on against Wolves, didn't he? Because he'd had that nonsense where he'd sort of gone, and it's just elements like that. And even Amorim said, look, I'd love to have him against Fulham this weekend because we needed to inject some pace. But if I put him in, then I've lost the club. I've lost the team because I can't condone what's happening, what I'm seeing. And you've got this crazy situation where you've now got someone on a horrendous contract not playing.
Yeah.
It's Jadon Sancho 2.0, isn't it? But with more money.
Yeah. Well, there's two things I'd like to point out about Rashford is one, go back to the last World Cup where he was scoring goals left, right, and centre for United. He was in the England squad, and there were genuine calls for him to start over Harry Kane at one point because of his pace and his directness. And we needed a bit of that because Kane was dropping too far back. So that's 2 years ago, just about. Just over 2 years later, we're in a position where he's nowhere near the first team, not playing, barely scored any goals in the past 18 months. Been so out of form, it's ridiculous. And then if we question his attitude and maybe where it's come from, like I always look at the squad he came into when he first joined. Like when he first came in through the reserves and like came to prominence when he scored those goals when he was like 17. And it's like you had Pogba's, Lingard's, these guys who've had their attitudes questions and I mean Pogba's had bans and this, that, and the other and being questioned about whether he actually wants to be on a football pitch or not. So if those are the leaders that he's gone into, it's clearly had a direct effect on what's happened as he's become a senior player, which just shows you that the backbone of the squad and the leadership of the squad just is non-existent when players are getting away with what they're getting away with. I mean, how many times have we heard him now has been on a night out and then the next day he's coming to train rough as all hell? Like even like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you wouldn't hear that from players. Like never mind in 2025. So why is that suddenly a thing? I just don't get it. Well, especially when he's a local lad and knows what it means to play for Man United. Like I just don't understand how he thinks this is the way to go about it.
No, and he must know that his performances have not been. He must be falling below his own standard. Even if he's his mentality of going out and doing stuff, that he must know, as you said, Grimmy, that season that he had where he was on fire, he went to the World Cup and was a threat. He knows his own worth. Obviously, has his feelings of his own worth, and hence why he's got the contract that he's managed to negotiate on, and he deems this. But to then deem that that's okay and that's acceptable, and that's what the top players, which is what he should be aspiring to do, aren't going and doing that. That's not something that's there. Heather said it's really sad. It's a waste of talent. Toby, what do you reckon on the Marcus Rashford kind of things? Where do you stand on him generally as a player, and do you think that that he's the problem and that Amorim's doing the right thing?
It's a funny one, really. I remember a couple seasons ago when he had that absolute purple patch just after the World Cup and he was scoring all the time. So he is obviously a good player. I think Amorim's done the right thing, and he can't bring him back for games, one-off games, even though he'd like to, because he is a quality Premier League footballer. But I think he can't send the wrong message, and I think it is time for Rashford to move on. I potentially think probably leaving the Premier League and going abroad maybe would help him. But that contract he's on, it's going to be hard to offload him. But yeah, I think Amorim's doing the right thing, leaving him out. I don't think there is a way that he can bring him back without significant apologies. And yeah, he just doesn't conduct himself right, does Marcus Rashford? But it is sad. I don't think this would happen 15 years ago under Fergie. This wouldn't happen at all, would it? He wouldn't let this happen. He would completely freeze him out as soon as he could. So yeah, it is sad, but I think Amorim's doing the right thing in the long term. And yeah, hopefully he moves on, and it's good for both parties.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say on the Fergie thing. I think if Fergie had been in charge of Rashford when he was a youngster, this wouldn't have even been a problem. I think if there'd been any sort of indiscipline when he was a kid, it would have been out the door, or you either sort it out or you're out the door, basically. And we wouldn't have even got anywhere near the situation.
I think the senior players would have sorted out with me, because they all talk about that, and then when their young players come through that dressing room at that time, I don't think the manager even needs to. They'd be going, "This ain't flipping acceptable." And I think that Man United dressing room had such a way, I think, in moulding Ronaldo at that time. And look what his mentality became. And I think it's a mix of the two. It would be Fergie and the dressing room. And I don't think Amorim's a new manager trying to stamp something on what is a shaky ground. And that dressing room is not. There's no leaders, as you said.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's very, very, very difficult. Before we will move on from Man United in a moment, but just touch on one more thing and get Toby's view. What are you making of Ruben Amorim overall? Because it's very confusing as a Man United fan at the minute, because it's just chaos everywhere. But you want to love the new man, and he's got charismatic and he's good. But a couple of the press conferences, he ain't mucking about, and he's starting to throw some things. What do you make of Amorim so far?
Yeah, I think, as you said, I think he is charismatic, and I think listening to his press conferences, I quite like him. Like, in a weird way, I quite like the way he comes across. I think on the pitch, obviously, it has been a bit tough, especially that run of games where I think it was the Newcastle game. It got a bit toxic at Old Trafford, but I think he's gonna need time. I think, like most managers, I think he definitely needs the summer window. That will be big for himself and for United. I think getting rid of some of the dead wood and signing players that he wants, I think that will be massive. I think it's hard to judge him yet on the little stint he's had, but I think it was impressive. The FA Cup game at Arsenal, I think going down to 10 men and holding on for so well. I think he shows that even getting 3 points at Fulham, didn't play the best football, but I think he's already installing some fight into this United side already. So I think give him the window in the summer. I think that's when you judge him coming later this year when we start next season. But at the minute, it's hard to say.
I think this is it. We just have to see it through, don't we, Grimmy? We just have to see it through, and that those brighter times are ahead. But we'll see. We won. Let's put a positive. Let's end as positive on it, Grimmy. We won 1-0 on it. What a game it was to win. I'm just having a look at a minute, because I think, I'll tell you what, I've not got the right slide on there, so bear with me a minute. We'll pick another topic while I find the table in the background. Toby, any other games that wowed you this weekend? Somebody you want to give a shout out to?
I'm trying to recall who was playing this week. I thought West Ham played quite well at Villa Park. I think Potter's is a good appointment. I think they look like they probably should have won it, especially late on in that second half. Paqueta was awesome. I thought Potter, yeah, he looks like he's got something going at West Ham. As for Villa, I think they are feeling the effects of playing European football in the week. I think that's definitely contributing to their league form not being as good as it is. But I think Emery is a very good manager, so I think they'll be all right in the long run. But yeah, no, I think West Ham impressed me. Who else played that we haven't talked about?
There was City Chelsea.
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea had that game in the palm of their hand in the first 10 minutes. How they didn't go and get another 2 or 3 goals after that start, I honestly have no idea.
No, they're a funny one at the minute, Chelsea. I thought they were looking like a proper team at the end of November, and they've sort of had a few losses over the Christmas period, and they look a bit. I'm not sure. I think Maresca, I'm not sure what to think of him at the minute, but yeah, they should have definitely scored more in that first period the other night. But yeah, no, they let City back into it, and credit to City, they took their chances, and they look like a team that are not their old selves, but they're definitely gonna get into where they were to a degree.
Yeah, they're starting to. The
unfortunately.
Juggernaut's starting to come back, and Foden's woken up, hasn't he? Because he was pretty much AWOL for a lot of the season. And just to touch back on Villa, because I think I touched at the start of the season that I thought Europe would be a stretch with the squad that they've got. They do seem to be trying to be a bit active in the transfer window. I think they've got defensive issues at the minute. The Diego Carlos has gone as well. Mings went off injured, and I think they've got Pau Torres out as well at the moment. But there's talks of a couple of centre backs. I think Disasi is a loan possibly from Chelsea's one that's being discussed. I think there's someone from Sevilla they were looking at as well. So there's those possibilities. There's also, as you mentioned, Toby, John Duran's name has been thrown about with the cup. I think West Ham were interested in him as well. He's another that they've been looking around at. So Villa, I'm not sure 100% done yet in the transfer window. Absolutely not. Stevie, yes, we will come to the tune. I was going to come to the tune in a second once I can sort my league table out in the background because my computer's on. An absolute go slow, I can tell you that for now. But yeah, we'll touch on that because obviously Newcastle with a 3-1 victory at Southampton, bit of a scare early doors with a Saints goal. But Alexander Isak, Toby, what do you make of Alexander Isak?
Yeah, he's exceptional. I think he's probably the way on form. He's the best striker in Europe, but I think I prefer him to Haaland. I don't know why. I just think he's exciting. Isak. I think you can't really stop him. I know, to be fair, the Cherries stopped him the other week, but other than that, I think he's one of them players that strikes fear into defenders. I would hate to be a centre half coming against Isak at the minute, but yeah, no, he's brilliant for FPL. So long may this form continue because I've had him all the way, and he's definitely repaying me back recently. So
he has been doing the business, and it's been a Salah or Isak question that's been usually the topic of discussion at work over the past few Fridays in terms of captaincy with how well he's been doing. So I mean, Southampton. Yeah, getting trolleyed everywhere, but Newcastle needed that after the previous week to get themselves sort of back in there. So, and as well in the chat, Rebecca isn't here, so Graham says that what a result for Everton. All hail the Moises, the Moisire is back. I love that. And Heather says Everton did a win at Brighton. Everton did do a win at Brighton. And it came with a Calvert-Lewin injury as well, so it was a proper Everton result. Sadly, for Calvert-Lewin, looks like he might be on the shelf again. But a big one, Grimmy Everton now with that victory up to 16th. They're now sort of putting a little bit of gap. Moyes is starting to do his magic. Leicester up next as well.
Yeah. Charge for Europe begins now, I think. It's great. Obviously, there was a lot of questions on Everton that we've had for weeks and months, really, with the situation they were in. But that spark of Moyes coming back and bringing some positivity that they've needed for years, really. It's been a long decline for Everton, and Moyes just seems to be getting them back to basics, making sure they're structurally sound in defence, and then getting the goals when they need them. And just, again, it could be 3 in a row once they play Leicester, and then you could say they're out of the relegation battle after that if they get to what would it be? 9 points potentially clear of Wolves, depending on results. So yeah, great times ahead for Everton, hopefully.
Great times ahead. He started to get that defence going. Look at that, two wins on the trot. Other games we haven't covered as well. Liverpool went and beat Arsenal. Wouldn't beat Arsenal. They did at one point, but Liverpool went and beat Ipswich 4-1. Comfortable win at home for them. I think a very much expected one. Cody Gakpo started banging in the goals for them as well. They've just got so many options up front at the minute. Liverpool are looking very, very difficult to stop. But I think they've got their game in hand coming up soon, so that will bring them back level to see what there's that. There's very interestingly, I think Bournemouth next, so real good sort of test what's going to happen there with Bournemouth in such exciting form, and then the Merseyside derby with Sir David of Moyes to see what he can do. So yeah, from a United fan, Heather, please do something. Somebody needs to do something and do it soon. So we are putting our trust in you, in the Cherries next, to see if they can turn this into a title race. We shall see. I think the other ones were Crystal Palace 1, Brentford 2, with a retaken penalty for encroachment. I mean, Mbeumo's penalties are hard enough to stop. When you stop one and then there's another one that's to go in afterwards, Toby, it's not so great, is it for them? There seems to be so many people taking the old jumping penalty now. I was looking, I think obviously Jorginho, Mbeumo, Tony's a couple, Bruno Fernandes does it at a time. Would you take one that way? Would you back yourself to take one with the old cheeky jump?
I've done a few in mucking about playing 6-a-side with my mate, so I quite enjoy the action of it. It just feels quite smooth, but I think you've got to have confidence to do it. But I quite like it. But if you miss doing it, then you look a bit silly. But I think for a goalkeeper, it would put you off a bit. So no, I do like it.
It's tricky. What about you, Grimmy? You ever tried
I'm
it?
not having that. I'm 2 steps and smash the ball in the back of the net. Don't be giving me this hop, skip, and jump malarkey. If you miss a penalty doing that, I've got no sympathy for you. It's like when we had Pogba doing the 20 minutes of jogging before he took a penalty. Like that was, And then Bruno used to do it, but then Bruno would blare with the odd one over the bar, and I'd be like, "What are we doing?
What are we doing? Who was the guy for? Was it Zaza? Did he do it for Italy or whatever?
Italy, yeah.
Zaza, and he did about 300 steps if we got to the ball, and it was just insanity. But I mean, that's a good win for Brentford. That's two away wins now. It was back to back, having had some poor away form. So that's been their problem this so far this season. So another good win for Brentford at a Palace side that have been good themselves on a bit of a run, sort of turn it round. So a good result for them. I think that covers it. I think we've at least touched on every single Premier League game, and there is the table. So Liverpool currently top, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Manchester City making up the top four, with Newcastle in that 5th place that looks like it's going to be a Champions League. But Chelsea and Bournemouth just 1 point behind in 6th and 7th. The bottom 3 currently it is Wolves. Wolves drop into the bottom 3, Ipswich in 19th, and Southampton still only on 6 points, currently looking like it's going to be the worst Premier League total unless something crazy happens, but it's not looking great. There's been parts, to be fair, in their last few matches. They played portions that are a bit better, but they also have these kind of suicidal elements for 20 minutes, and that's ultimately going to get you destroyed. So that's it. To finish on today, we decided that we'll bring up an old favourite we haven't done in a little while. We're going to bring up FPL. What's going on in the Fantasy Premier League? We're going to have a little look at the team of the week, talk to Toby a little bit about what he thinks of his Fantasy Premier League team, and then we're going to have a look at the Absolute Football Podcast League table. What's been going on in the podcast FPL? So let's have a little gander here. This is the team of the week. 142 points if you had all of these guys. But look at that. If you got Dango Watara in there and Clivert in there. Shabozlai got a good points haul, and Kevin Sharder. Grimmy, any of these in your team?
Isak, because he was my captain.
Obviously, yeah.
I can't say there's anyone else. I'm amazed that there's a Man United player in this team of the week, but there we go.
Yeah, Martinez got, is it 13 Martinez got?
15. 15 he's got clean sheet and a goal.
And a goal and bonus points, presumably, as well. That's insane. I mean, not a lot of people are going to have Emerson or West Ham, but Toby, any of these find their way? What's your Fantasy Premier League looking like at the moment?
To be fair, until this week, I was quite good. I was in the top 800,000, so I was loving life. I have Isak, but that is the only one out of them in my team. I did have a rule. I didn't include Arsenal players in my team because I just couldn't want them to do well. I couldn't sit there, and I couldn't. And then I sort of give in this year. I was like, go on, then I'll have Saka. Had Saka, he got injured. To be fair, I replaced him with Foden, who actually is picking up some decent points in recent weeks. But yeah, I'm a little bit below the average this week, but all in all, I'm doing all right, I think.
It's not a bad little run then. You're doing not too bad at all. And Grimmy, how's your week been in FPL? Is it looking rosy?
I did just have a look at it before I clocked onto here. I'm about 67 points, or just above average. I think if I get just above average every week, I'm proud of myself. So that's the aim.
That's a pretty good run. I think I had 69 this week. I've been fairly happy with I've been performing, as we'll come on to, because I have the league table currently.
I knew why you were bringing up that league table, Sam. I knew there was a reason.
Look, I can't control the Premier League table, but I can control the Absolute Football Podcast fantasy table when that's used. And I think it's the right time to introduce it, because I just so happen to have currently sat myself into second place at the minute, which you never know when this could end. So take the love while you can get it. And I'm pretty happy, because my barometer is always Lucas, because Lucas is an FPL legend. And I'm currently 60 points ahead of him. So I'm feeling pretty good. But I know that man has he'll have a way to come back. He'll have a way to come back. It's gonna happen. It's a worry.
I wish I hadn't seen that league, because my wrestling podcast joint host or co-host is number 7 on that league, and I'm not going to hear the end of it now.
No, you're not. Braggs is currently sitting in 7th place there.
How many people are in that league, may I ask?
97, I think.
Yeah, almost 100. I think we had in it last I looked. Have a look now. 97 spot on, Grimmy. Yeah, we have 97. Do you want to know your position, Grimmy?
I'm going to say I'm around 40th.
He says he's around 40th. I can't find you yet. I can't find 43rd, Grimmy. 43rd.
Just in the top half. That's
just in the top half.
Get myself in the top half. Security every season.
This is it. No relegation fear. No problems. You're under control in that position. But most importantly for me, I'm winning, having won it last year. The Grimmy Fantasy Premier League team, the league, which is obviously the biggest trophy that you can win.
That's the accolade everyone's vying for, really.
That's the one. I'm currently top of that again. I'm looking for a back-to-back champions of the Grimmy League.
I think you're quite clearly in front on that one, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I've jumped ahead of Drop It Like It's Slot in second place.
Braxter is in that league as well. He's 3rd. So
Braxter's in there too.
There's a 3-way fight for that one. So that might be tight.
Plenty to play for. I've got some chips left as well. Might be some chips time. Double game week coming up soon. So I think something needs to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Something needs to happen indeed. What has happened is we've had a wonderful podcast with some wonderful people and a wonderful chat talking it all through. And we're very, very fortunate to have everybody with you. Toby, it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for making your debut. Been excellent, and great to hear your thoughts on everything Spurs and everything else. Where can everybody find you? Because we may be hopefully seeing more of you coming up soon on the Lower League show.
Yeah, so I think the plan is for me to start doing the Lower League show. I think that's Thursdays that's recorded. But yeah, if you want to find me, that's my socials. I've got my X on there. That's probably where I'm most active. And that's it really for me. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed my first go at it tonight.
No, you're absolutely welcome. So if anyone's listening on audio, you can catch Toby at Toby Pike Sport on Twitter, as we call it. We don't call it X. We are old school till we die. There is none of this new age stuff. We are Twitter. That's where we're at. That's what we do.
That's the equivalent of hop, skipping, and jumping for a penalty.
No, I'm happy with that.
2 steps and smash it. There we go.
It is Twitter for me, but I thought, come on, I'll be grammatically correct. So no, Twitter, I'm very happy with that. That's what I would say in normal conversation. So
this is it. Twitter, as Graham says. Yeah, the first rule is Twitter. It's Twitter all the way is what we go with. And Grimmy, of course, you're a tweeter, but you're also a YouTuber of many aspirations and many shows and things. So what's going on in your busy life at the minute, and where can everybody find you?
Too many things going on at the minute. So main one is what's on the video, Saint Grimmy. That's my main YouTube channel. That's my gaming channel. Do lots of sports games and got a few other things in the pipeline in the next month or so, because there's a lot of stuff coming out. Just done some stuff on PGA 2K23 because that's just been announced, and there's a lot of trailers and stuff that I've broken down. So if you're interested in golf, go check those out. We've got a wrestling podcast, which is called Taking the Pin. And we've got the Royal Rumble preview coming out tomorrow. Always a good time if you're a wrestling fan for the Royal Rumble. It's always good fun. I'm Grimmy16 on Twitter. I'm pretty sure that's right. I haven't checked it for a while. And that's about it. There's probably something I'm forgetting. I have too much going on. It's not okay.
life is busy for Grimmy. There's too many games, too many Royal Rumbles and footballs.
I do all that, and then I say, you know what? I'm gonna join this football podcast. I feel like that's the one thing I'm missing in my life. That's the all I need to fill.
Shorter things to do. Are you doing a watch along for the Royal Rumble, Grimmy, or is that? Or are you're going to do a review?
We were going to, but Bragster is at work. Otherwise, I would have probably organised it in some way, shape, or form. And I don't think there's many people I can get to volunteer to do it at 11 and 12 o'clock at night. So probably not. But there is a chance we do it for WrestleMania, which could be very interesting, seeing as that's 2 nights and that's 1 o'clock in the morning. I might be a dead man by that Monday. It's very possible.
Did I hear a thing there? Because Royal Rumble is early. I know Royal Rumble's 11. Because my plan usually is not to watch it at the time, but this year I'm going to do it. I'm going to stick with it live.
Ooh.
I'm going to do it because it's Saturday as well. So Sunday.
Cheeky Discord call, Sam.
I think a cheeky Discord call could be counted. Cheeky Discord call with me shouting EO Sky in there about 300 times.
No one understands each other because it's just noise. Yeah.
Just noise. People. It's going to happen.
It's like watching a football match.
It's very much like watching a football match. I thought, WrestleMania might be earlier anyway. Anyway, we've digressed. We've digressed into wrestling talk, but there we go.
The Absolute Wrestling Podcast. There you go.
It's coming. It's a matter of time. Absolute matter of time. You can find me. I am at Sam Absolute FBL on Twitter. And most of the stuff I'm doing at the minute is at Sam Absolute EFL on YouTube and on TikTok as well. So more videos that I've kind of got planned. But as with Grimmy, it's a time thing. There's more happening in the background, but soon will be happening in the foreground. That's the plan. We're getting there. It's going to happen. But the one that you do need to follow, all the important stuff, it is the Absolute Football Podcast. We are now, of course, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Absolutely Premier League on a Tuesday, Absolutely Women's Football on a Wednesday, and Absolutely Lower League on a Thursday, Rowdy Rabble on a Thursday, Team Chaos on a Wednesday, and we haven't got a name for shit on Tuesday, just us, just the Premier League.
Tuesday Warriors?
Tepid Tuesdays, the tempestuous Tuesdays. You can find us on Twitter, Absolute Ball Pod, on YouTube, Absolute Football Podcast, TikTok, Absolute Football Pod, on Instagram, Absolute Football Podcast _ Blue Sky, Absolute Football, Facebook, the Absolute Football Podcast. And the reason it's all different, Toby, is because Josh, who set all of this up, thought it'd be funny to have everything under a different name. It's just because why not? Because why not? We are in charge. Exactly. These things is what we live with, but it makes it interesting. We are, of course, the best new content creator at the Football Content Awards as well. Plenty coming to your screens. Check out the channel because there's lots of videos that have been going up and continue to go up. And we've got more planned, more exciting things planned. Lots coming, lots to do. But for now, from us, have a wonderful week. We will catch you soon on the next one. Ta-ta for now. Cheerio.